Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Welsh Athletics Coaching Insight Series, talking to some of our great coaches around the country. My name is Fyn, and this afternoon we're heading up to North Wales to catch up with top pole vault and combined events coach, Geoff Ward. Good afternoon, Geoff.
Hi, Fyn. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. How are you getting on?
Not too bad. No face-to-face coaching at the moment, but maybe very soon. My daughter's been shielding.
Right.
So she was allowed out for a walk today, so we walked the dog and got her out of the house for a little while.
Oh, good. That's good. Yeah, I'm confused with you because you've got English athletes quite close to you as well. So
yes, I have.
All the different rules are kind of crossing the border and not being able to cross the border, but so it's extra confusing for you, I'd imagine.
Yes, a little bit, but we've kept in touch by video and phone calls. It's the best we can do.
Yeah, exactly. Adapt to the situation. Right, we'll talk a bit more about that kind of lockdown situation later. But before we get going on your long, colourful coaching experiences, I'll just explain how I met you 20-something years ago. You used to coach someone I used to compete with and compete against, Paul Jones. And that time, the generation of decathletes that we were coming through, no one liked to pole vault. No one could pole vault. We just hoped for a tailwind, get on the biggest pole we could, run as fast as we could. So when we came across Paul Jones, and he could just, pole vault with his eyes closed. So and he'd just get points and points ahead of us just on that pole vault. So so come 20 years later, when we meet up and we're doing a bit of work together, it's kind of quite funny. So anyway, we'll touch on your coaching in a bit, but tell us about Geoff the athlete, because I've seen a few recent posts and videos on Facebook. What any other of the coaching community you used to compete with, and what kind of events did you used to do, and what were your favourites?
Well, most of my early athletics was at school. I didn't join an athletics club till I was about 16. I high jumped in the Stoke-on-Trent Junior Schools Championships when I was about 11. I long jumped at high school, did one or two other events, did the Staffordshire County Championships, never went to the English schools, always just missed out. When I was 16, I went to the local club and met a guy named Jim Talbot, who who was the former national coach for combined events, GB coach. He wasn't then, he was just taking some juniors for long jumping, and I did some sessions with him. And then about 2 years later, I committed to doing decathlon. And Jim was my coach for about 10 years. He became the national coach, so I was very lucky there. Someone else you might know, Alan Lindop, who does all the rankings for the combined events. He was at school with me. So we basically became the epicenter of combined events in the country back in the 1970s.
And even when I was competing in the kind of 90s, end of the 90s, there was still a massive around that Stoke area. We had Jamie Quarry was kind of in that as well, and all the young guys. There's so many from that stable of combined events athletes around Stoke area.
I was his first decathlete. A guy named John Howell trained with me, who became a 7,200 point decathlete. And a bobslayer, like quite a few of them do. Married an American, bought into a millionaire's family and lived over there. And then my next training partner after a couple of years was John Crotty, who was an international triple jumper. I did a bit of triple jumping when I was a junior. And he trained with us. He became the England coach mentor for long jump. So for many, many years. So we've come across each other quite regularly since then. So those were my two early training mates. And I did decathlon until I was about 28, 29, but injuries were taking over, as they do. And I decided to retire, concentrate on a career, and eventually moved to North Wales.
Yeah, so you crossed the border.
Yeah.
Is there any of those sessions you used to do with Jim? Any of those kind of favourites that you still use with your athletes today?
Oh, I still use them, yes. I'm quite a traditional coach. I don't do anything too fancy. And a lot of what I used to do as an athlete, we do now. I have to say that Jim was a boxer. That was his sport. So I don't give people a thick ear anymore. But, he's quite a character, and he never hit me, obviously. But he thought he might at some stage.
Yeah, he was quite old-fashioned, Jim, wasn't he?
Yeah. But tremendous character and got the best out of everybody. And as you touched on, dozens and dozens of athletes moved to Stoke then. Combined events athletes, male, female, people like Jamie Quarry, as you've mentioned. And for many, many years, it was a combined events centre. So lucky to have had that opportunity to begin with.
Yeah, it was great. And they all had this kind of hard work ethic as well, just basic, as you said, just keep it simple and just work hard. And when they would come and do running sessions or when we go warm over training to see them, there was just that hard work ethic that came from that Stoke kind of environment.
Definitely. I think they worked harder than when I was competing in the 70s, those later. But yeah, I went to Portugal warm weather training with Paul, and we obviously joined up quite regularly. We went over to Stoke on a Thursday night to train indoors. We drove from Wrexham to Stoke to vault and high jump and things. So we got used to working with the lads, and yes, it worked very, very hard.
So how did you start your coaching journey then?
Well, as I said, I moved to Wrexham. I was already working in sport and leisure. I was assistant manager at a leisure centre in Cheshire, and the opportunity came up in Wrexham. They were applying to have an all-weather track in Wrexham. It would be the second one in Wales after Cwmbran, and they were pretty confident they would get it. So my leisure background, my athletics background, I thought, I'll come here. There's lots of other things with the job, but I came here with the old cinder track, rundown facilities, and that was about 82, I think, 83. And by the end of 85, we'd got the all-weather track. In 86, we had the 3A's Decathlon Championships in Wrexham. I remember Greg Richards, I think he won it, who, as you know, was a great athlete, but also a very, very good coach.
Yep, coached me for a while, yeah.
Yeah, so he came to win, and I think that's the last time any 3A's English event was held in Wales or outside of England. Yeah, you've got to go back into history to learn about the 3A set up in England, Wales, and everything. But yes, the 3A's championships were held in Wales.
Right, so you kind of used Wrexham then as a base, and athletes came to you, I suppose. You said
straight away. Not straight away. When I moved to Wrexham, the club didn't even have a track and field team.
Right.
And there was a guy named Ron Bell, who you won't have heard of, but he became world veterans 800-meter champion, right. 152 at the age of 40, something like that. And he decided we should form a team and go into the Welsh League. And at that stage, nobody knew one end of a pole to the other. No one knew how to hurdle. No one knew how to do a lot of the technical events. But we did attract some decent athletes. And I came out of retirement and started doing a little bit of training, and started competing in the Welsh League for Wrexham. And soon after that, I got 2 or 3 athletes together who wanted to do decathlon. Mm-hmm. And so 1988, I think, 6 years after I retired, I did another decathlon in Mansfield. There's a picture up there somewhere of my first group. We all competed together at Mansfield. So I made a bit of a comeback. I did about 3 decathlons over the next couple of years. And that was the start of my coaching.
Right, good stuff. Yeah, and as I say, I competed against some of your athletes, so I know all too well how good they were. You touched on it there. Decathletes never really retire. Have you done any competing in the last few years?
Well, I've done some masters athletics, but a lack of cartilage in my knee and other issues means I can't really run and jump. Jumping was my favourite event. So, yes, I won British Masters high jump, and I think it was top ranked triple jumper, and that's what did my knee in, I think. So I just threw discus, but I won a bronze at British Masters level last year in the discus.
Very good. So what about now? Who right now are you coaching as we speak? I alluded to it earlier, some 1 or 2 English athletes in there as well.
Yeah, I don't coach I don't put as many hours in as I used to. When I used to coach the group you referring to, we had 5 GB internationals, all from Wrexham. And most of them did combined events. All of them did some sort of combined events training. They diversified some of them into other events. So that got very complicated and hard work to try and look after everybody. Now I was coaching Olivia Montez Brown, who's the England international heptathlete, but she went over to America on a scholarship. I coach a guy named Ewan Bradley, who's just turned 18, who's a very, very promising decathlete, a very good hurdler and a very good pole vaulter, as you've seen. He's over in Chester, which is, I could be in his house in 15 minutes.
Right.
We were very close to the border. He can get to the indoor facility at Deeside quicker than I can from Wrexham.
Right.
I coached Tom Wally, who's the Welsh pole vault champion. He's now committed full time to pole vaulting.
So he was triple jumping as well, wasn't he, before?
He did a couple of decathlons. So as we'll probably chat about, most of my athletes get involved in some sort of multi-event type training. I did a couple of decathlons, and he concentrated on triple jump, but the body wasn't taking that. And last year committed to just doing pole vault. But I have to say, I also share his coaching with Amanda Broadhurst and Ian Broadhurst, who are fantastic. Amanda did a lot with his jumps early on and still works on some of the jumps. So we work as a team there. I have caring commitments at home, and so I can't go out 5 or 6 days a week anytime I want and just coach. So a little bit limited, but as you know, I'm committed to helping others in North Wales who are interested in coaching and want some help, and a little bit of help with those athletes when we can get back to normal.
Exactly, yeah, and we do some stuff together. We've done two or three run, jump, throw days up there, haven't we, recently?
Yeah, one got cancelled at very late, didn't it?
The last one got cancelled, wasn't it?
Yes, which was unfortunate. Yes, they were very well received, and we had 4 events, rotated the groups. But I think what I want to try and achieve is that the clubs, if we get back to normal, can work together. We can actually utilise our coaching, our club resources, work together to develop athletes across the region. I don't think we'll ever have enough coaches in any one club, so I think we're going to have to share a little bit and work together. Yeah,
that idea did work well when we came up, and we're going to progress that to the older athletes as well, aren't we, soon? So yeah, that kind of hub thing around where we went indoors at Deeside, that worked really well, and hopefully will be good in the future.
Yeah, and as I say, it got a good reception. So I'm hoping that the clubs will take that on board a little bit more. We'll build on it. and we'll start to develop more, particularly in the technical events.
Yeah,
that's the weakness. That's where you need the most. That's where you need the coaching in the technical events. And some events we've got hardly anybody coaching them in North Wales.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so to your coaching, then we'll just I won't keep you too much longer. What you talked about it then. What do you think the benefit is to athletes doing more than one event from when they're kind of mid-teens and onwards?
Well, if you follow a multi-event approach, you get a range of skills that you learn. You get a range of conditioning. You find out what your best event is, and my athletes have swapped and changed. Some of the athletes you see on the photos behind me, they reached World Youth Finals at 400 hurdles. They've won England titles at 300 hurdles. They've high jumped internationally. I mean, Andy there, he high jumped got his first GB vest at under 20 level in pole vault, and then he got an under 23 vest in high jump. Ben Roberts, you might remember. Ben's up there as well. He fantastic, powerful athlete and a great guy. Didn't like the running,
no,
but he did. He competed at GB under 23 level in decathlon, but he later represented Wales in shot. So he kept going up until his late 20s and did 16.5 metre shot. He won the Welsh Schools shot when he was 17 or 18.
Yeah, I remember him as a decathlete, and then when we kind of I went a different direction, and I noticed he was shot putting after that.
Yes. We did wonder whether he would be better just concentrating on the shot.
Yeah, because he wasn't huge, was he? He was powerful.
Very
strong.
Powerful. I mean, he's a 14,910 hurdler, senior hurdler.
Yeah, that's right. He was a good hurdler.
Yes, but he didn't like the 1500. So the running, he suffered a bit with the running. But yeah, going back to that, those are the main reasons why. It also the variety. It for both the athlete and the coach makes it more interesting for me. If things aren't quite going well in one event, come on, let's do something else. I think for me, and probably for you, just having one event to concentrate on, and I've tried it, it gets a little bit monotonous, boring. It's too much of the same routine. I know you can add to that, but certainly the variety of doing multi-events, it makes it far more interesting for both the coach and the athlete.
Yeah, definitely. If you did have to pick, and people ask me all the time, what is your favourite event? What would be your favourite event to compete in, and what is your favourite event to coach? And are they the same? Or do they change?
Well, my favourite events to compete in were the jumps, and it all depends on what age I was. I think high jump I was particularly keen on. I mean, I'm one of those that saw Dick Fosbury at the Mexico Olympics, and then went out the following year because that was late in the winter. We had some foam sacks in the pole vault area, took the high jump stands down there, put a bar up, and taught myself to Fosbury flop. Right, and it made a massive difference to me. I raised my personal best nearly 2 feet over the years. So that's. I think that was my favourite event at that time. To coach now is pole vault. I find it fascinating, and I'm learning all the time.
Yeah, I think. It's one of those events where you'll keep learning, dependent, and your athletes. Yeah, every athlete is completely different, aren't they? The way they pole vault is.
Oh yes, yeah.
I'm sure you're all too aware. So, with this current situation, our lockdown, what lessons will you take away from this lockdown, and what will you use after lockdown that has come about during lockdown? Is there anything that you'll kind of keep?
Well, I mean, not directly me coaching. I found the webinars good as for coach education and a certain amount of interaction. So I've done some of the England webinars. I did Ryan's shot put webinar. So I think thinking ahead, I think those webinars will be retained. Hopefully to complement other stuff going on. But I think the webinars have worked very well. I mean, I listened to Vern Gambetta, who I've known of for many years, the American coach. And, it's just really interesting to get different perspectives, different ideas. So I think the webinars from a sort of coach education point of view should be retained. I'm getting to grips with technology. I'm not brilliant at it. The lads are very good at technology. So I do encourage them anyway. They film each other. They video each other. It's the easiest way. Just video each other and send me, we look at it there and they send me the ones that I want to see. So certainly that type of technology. The lads are very good at training on their own. And I think you've got to be. If you're not that sort of person, I don't think you're going to succeed. But Tom and Ewan have trained very well. Ewan is more decathletes. And
is there anything you've done to spice that up between the two of them?
There are some tests, yes. They haven't sent me a video of the latest test. I don't think they've managed to achieve it yet, which is a strength balance test. It's a headstand push up into a handstand, which is difficult.
They are both
when I go round to see Tom tomorrow, I'll get his dad to just assist him a little bit, and we'll just see how far I can get. But they've had various challenges like that. It's been quite difficult to know what to do, but they both managed to construct high bars, so they can do lots of pole vault specific stuff on the high bar as well as strength work.
Tom has done a video for me, so when we release this talk, we'll put Tom's video up.
Yeah, I'll be interested in that.
But I've seen him since, and he's been doing some amazing things since. So
yeah, I've seen quite a lot of videos. Yes, he's not there yet. When Tom came to me, and I think one of the things about coaching is you never quite know how they're going to progress. When Tom came to me, there's two things I remember. He couldn't do a headstand. He nearly broke his neck. He just hadn't done any gymnastics at school. And when it came to doing leg raises, he could hardly do them.
Right.
And he was about 14 or 15 at the time, and he couldn't do anything like that. He's changed a lot in the last few years.
Mm. Yeah, strength is, you'd have thought he's got a bit of a history of gymnastics, but obviously not. It's just come on a lot recently.
No, his background is jumping. So you can get them from both backgrounds. But now you may have seen videos, Tom can do a backward sommie and actually walk on his hands and things like that. He's never going to make a gymnast though.
No, he's a bit too tall as well.
As tall as Ewan.
So one of my final notes I've got here, who's going to jump 5 meters first, Tom or Ewan?
It's tough. It's going to be close. I was hoping Tom would vault 5 meters this year. We made a decision to move down a pole in length, so through the winter he was gripping a foot lower, and he vaulted a PB, and he vaulted much higher in training. Didn't quite happen in competition, but we were getting there. The main thing is get his technique right.
Yeah.
Now, the plan then was to switch to the longer poles this summer, and hopefully 5 meters. Ewan is the better gymnast, and there's elements of his technique that's slightly better, but he's not as quick, and he's not as good off the ground as Tom is, and he's still on the small poles. Switching up might take a bit longer.
Yeah.
So out of the two, I think, I don't know whether you would go to see this, I think Tom.
Well, because Tom's Welsh, we'll take that answer. So.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff. I think we'll leave it there. Have you got any other closing remarks you'd like to mention to the Welsh community?
I just hope we can get back together doing some sort of competitions soon. But I don't think anyone knows when that will be. It's going to be it's going to be difficult to keep going and going and going without proper competition. So I hope Welsh Athletics are working on a master plan, and we'll get something going. I assume they're going to be small scale, very local type competitions. I'm not sure what's going to happen indoors then, whether we will have any restrictions for training, for instance, when we get back in the autumn. But I look forward to seeing everybody, seeing Ed and his group down in South Wales, Isline, who I used to compete against in Swansea. You know, we've got 3 good groups and a few others as well coaching. So hopefully we'll all get together in the near future.
Yeah, definitely. With the pole vault crew, we've got some pole vault hotbeds, haven't we? So up there, you're kind of the peak of the triangle. Then we've got Ed in Cardiff and Jane and Isloin, Craig. So we're doing quite well in the pole vault in Wales. So it's good times.
Yeah, well, one of my jobs when I came to North Wales, not immediately. I spent time in Malta. I did development jobs, and one of them was to raise the funds for the indoor centre at Deeside. So I was instrumental in getting that together, and it was always meant to be that triangle, and that we'd have a hub here in Deeside, one in Swansea, obviously the National Centre in Cardiff, and I think we can work to pull that together a little bit more and help each other. Yeah,
good stuff. Collaboration. It's a good word. Right, Geoff, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Fyn.
I'll talk to you soon, and I'm sure the community will see you out and about soon.
Yes, I hope to see you in the flesh soon as well. But
yeah, definitely.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot.
All the best, Geoff. Thanks very much.
Bye now.
Bye now.